Welcome back to Fewladelphia, where over the last few episodes we've been slowly expanding upon our old industrial suburb of Buril. The town was originally formed to support housing for the workers of the paper factory, but over the years the old brick buildings have slowly crumbled away, with modern development intertwining the original buildings which have stood the test of time. As more of the district was redeveloped and a marina was introduced, the area became a bustling centre for the wealthy, young and trendy. So today let's add to that lore by giving Buril an art gallery, bars and eateries, as well as ensuring our citizens' needs are met before we start to build downtown. Let's dive in. Alright, we are post-patch, we are back, and we still have deathcare warnings. To be expected, Fisher's Point seems to be suffering really badly from it, and I don't know if it's because I've done a lot of building fusing, there's a lot of plopping over there. There's a few issues. But the big thing from the patch was, of course, bikes and bike traffic being culled by 80%. So if we just take a little look what's happened in Fewladelphia, as you can see, this road from the last episode that was absolutely packed with bikes, there's now virtually none. So it's like gone literally 180 degrees in the opposite direction, which is quite interesting. I think maybe 80% was a little bit too much, but I'm not going to complain because we still have bikes, we still have a lot of bike traffic, and it's not doing crazy backup things like it was before. Like you see this junction where it was backing up pretty much to the roundabout, it's not anymore. So yeah, I was planning on coming in and actually redoing a lot of this bike network here, but we don't actually need to now. And even this junction where they were causing lots of problems before, no issues at all now. So yeah, there's still a few bikers, but there's not many. And I think the biggest thing that I noticed is actually it means there's more walkers now. So you can see here, there's a steady flow of people coming across the bridge and walking along the edge of our highway, which is not ideal. Whereas before they were all using their bikes. So I don't know, pluses and minuses to this update, clearly. I think it was maybe a little bit steep, but yeah, not going to complain. I think it's better on our traffic. We still have bikes, so we're all good there. Okay, so we are at episode 50 of Fewladelphia, and we haven't yet put downtown in, but I promise you, next episode, we're starting downtown. So today, we're basically going to clear up a few little issues and prepare ready for a massive influx in population, networks, everything in the city. So now we obviously have this area to do, which I'm going to come back and do later in the episode, but I do want to first look at some of the stats in the city, the happiness, that sort of thing. One of the big things I have noticed with happiness is, okay, we're at max happiness, so it's not a problem. But unreliable mail service is obviously a huge issue. And the only thing I could think to that is that when we have a look at all of our post offices, they're all absolutely chock-a-block full. And I'm assuming that's because we don't have a post sorting facility. So they're only able, okay, that one's not actually. I take that back. But most of them are, as you can see here. So yeah, I'm assuming that's because we don't have a post sorting facility. So we can't take mail through outside connections. Essentially it's only local mail that is dealt with at the moment. So that's the first thing I do want to do, is add in one of those. Now the big debate was, where does this go? And I actually think this little kind of utility area that we've been slowly adding to over time would be quite a good location for it. We have a reasonable spot here that with a bit of landscaping I think we can fit it into quite nicely. And this is also going to be quite a good location because we're going to have another interchange here when we come to build out this district. So this will be pretty close to it and we can feed it directly into the highway network for easy access in and out of the city and getting around the city, etc. So that'll do for the moment, and I don't think we need to upgrade it. I am noticing though that 0 vehicles have exited the building. So whether that's even working or not, I don't know. I thought they had fixed post, but perhaps not. But let's see anyway. Now if we take a little quick look at the info view, I mean we've got post boxes pretty well spread out across the city. Obviously the issue is that the post has accumulated so much. In fact, oddly, not in Tinny. I wonder what's going on there. So interestingly, we do have the vanilla post office in Tinny, not any of the other ones, and that seems to be working a little bit better than literally every other post office in the game. Although over in Atkinson we've also got the same thing. So that is, yeah, the Japanese post office. It does seem like maybe the small post office is quite bugged. So I'm going to see how it goes and we'll kind of track that a little bit over time. There is a bit of mail being sorted. We just clearly have a lot of issues in that respect. But I don't think it's a case of needing more mailboxes because they're pretty well spread across the city. So let's see how the post sorting facility does and if that helps at all on that happiness meter towards the end of the episode. So yeah, the other thing on here is high crime rate is at a negative. So let's just take a little look at that again on our info view here. And you can see again across the city, we're pretty well covered. If we take away the crime probability, so we can see the road coverage a little bit better, the only real problem area, apart from in the middle of the golf club, which I'm not worried about, there's no buildings there, or on that road, there's nothing happening there either, is out here up towards the cathedral. This one's working fine. I mean, we could add a helipad. We haven't actually done that anywhere as of yet. We haven't got any helicopters. Let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah, maybe that'll help. But the other thing I think that would be good is to actually add in a police station over here as well, just so we've got a little bit better cover. And I'm thinking probably on this road and also the US Northeast police station, because I think that's going to blend in best with a lot of the houses that we already have here. I think that'll do. I don't think we need to do too much to that. Sits in pretty well at the bottom of the hill there, so hopefully that'll be nice and functional and help with that police coverage. We just go back to the info view for a second. We can now see those roads look a lot better around there than they were at least, so hopefully that'll help and get rid of our little tiny -1 negative happiness there. So another big thing I wanted to check before we come on to downtown was water and electricity usage. So electricity, as you can see, we are more than okay for, with of course our geothermal power plant there, as well as the electricity coming from the incinerator and the wind farm. We're all good. We've got a huge amount. Water, however, we do not. So actually sewage treatment we're not too bad, but water availability is a little bit low here. So we've got about 40,000 capacity, which definitely means we're going to need more when it comes to the downtown. So this isn't going to add a huge amount, but I think it's going to help in the meantime. Over by Buril, we've got this tiny little spot that's going to be very difficult to build in between the rail line and the highway here. And I thought it'd be a nice touch to add in the USA Northeast Water Tower to this point, because Buril at the end of the day is very US Northeast inspired, of course, by that area in Philadelphia. So I thought this might be a nice little touch as people are driving into Buril to have this here. Although it is extremely white in the new graphics with the update, which I'm sort of struggling with a little bit, I will admit. I'm not sure I love the changes to the lighting and the shadows, but I don't know. Let me know what your experience has been with it. But yeah, this is like horrifically white. It's like almost blindingly white, which is kind of unusual. So I think maybe later on I might come through and add in some decals on it to try and lessen that. But we do have these nice little things as well that add attractiveness to our city. So welcome. Yeah, why not? Welcome to Buril. Don't waste water, of course. Let's do that. We do also need to, of course, hook it in. So let's go ahead and do that before we forget. And we're just going to pull it up to the roadside over there. But that'll add another 40,000 of capacity, so it'll be 80,000 over, which isn't too bad. It's not going to be enough for all of downtown, so we'll have to manage that when it becomes an issue. But it's a start, and I thought that was a nice little addition to Buril, even if it is horrifically white. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to look at was tram capacity, because I've been looking at transport, and we do have a bit of a problem, to be honest, with the trams. So you can see here, this particular tram, 230 out of 240 people, so it's almost full. When we actually take a look at this route, so the Buril to Fisher's Point tram route, we have got a huge amount of passengers waiting at certain stops, and pretty much all of our trams, bar a couple on this section of the route, are full, or almost full at the very least. So I think we need more trams here. The difficulty with that is that our tram depot is already at capacity. So if we head on over here to Fisher's Point, the tram depot, 15 out of 15, we've already done the upgrade, so there are no more trams to be had. Now I am planning, spoiler alert, to put trams into the downtown. So I think for the moment where we've got the end of the tram truck network here, what we are going to do is just add in another depot. Now I do have, of course, Tegan's tram extension pack, but they're very, very small sheds as opposed to large ones. So we really need a large capacity tram shed. So I think it's just going to have to be the vanilla default one for this. And we're going to place it in here. This is going to move, so I don't think I'm going to, well, I'm definitely not going to keep it up against the main road just like this. But for the moment, that's then going to allow us to optimise that Fisher's Point to Buril route a little bit better before we then head on to the downtown, because I want to make sure all of these things are working. You can see 93% usage there, which is pretty crazy. We've also got 71% on the Fisher's Point line, which is sort of the circular line around Fisher's Point that then heads back into Tinney. So we've got 8 vehicles on that, and again, this is a sort of similar case where there's a lot of full trams and a lot of people waiting. So let's boost that up, and I think we're going to add 3 more in, up to 11 for the Fisher's Point line. And then for Barille to Fisher's Point, we've also got 8, so I think we're going to do the same and add in another 3. In fact, I think I'm going to go 4, because it was 93% usage. So we'll go up to 12 there, which will mean we've used 7 of the 10 trams available already from here. So we can add another 5 on with the extension. So we'll still have 8 trams ready for downtown, and we can move this depot obviously when we come to do this area as well. Same with the ferry depot. It's all a little bit rough around here, and this will all be redone in a future episode. But that should hopefully help the tram situation at least. Like, I was noticing this stop here was becoming so backed up around school time. It was absolutely wild. Yeah, see, this one's already full. Are all these people going to get on it? Yeah, it looks like they are. That's pretty good. There's a lot of people getting off here, of course, as well. It's just really busy, which is great to see. I love the trams. Alright, so the final fix that I did want to look at before we start downtown, and to be honest, downtown's going to solve a lot of this, so I'm not too worried about it. But we're also going to add in a lot of population, so it may not at the end of the day. But when we look at unemployment, it's currently at 15.3%, so it is a bit high, to be honest, for what I want. When we go to the workplace availability tab, you can see here most of the available spots, there's only 40 open positions, are actually from the uneducated and poorly educated brackets. So that means we've actually got enough jobs in that space to fulfill the population at the moment, and where it's full is in the educated, well-educated and highly educated positions. So we need more offices. Now the difficulty with this is we have 0 demand for offices, which is really annoying. So if we have a look at the reason why, it says unoccupied buildings. Now I cannot find unoccupied offices. I don't know where they are. If we go to the offices info view, like, there is no black buildings like that. Like, they're literally, all of our offices here are occupied. Needless to say, I'm kind of very confused by that. But the one thing I did notice was that if I try and plop in a normal office building, it basically doesn't get a business into it. It doesn't happen. But if I plop in an office signature building, it immediately gets a business and gets the workforce in. So it's kind of confusing, I'm not going to lie. So basically what we're going to have to do is try and get in as many office signature buildings as we can. Now, of course, there's going to be loads of these in the downtown, so I'm not too worried about packing it in for now. But I'd like to just build up a little bit more in this space, I think, just to try and bring that unemployment down. Because like I said, we're also going to be adding in population with the downtown, of course. So let's try and bring those up to 15.8 now. Let's try and bring that down a touch before we get to that stage. And that'll also help with like transportation as well, making sure we've got the jobs in these areas to support the citizens in these areas rather than them having to travel all the way across the city into the downtown to get to work. So there's a few things that I do want to do. And the first thing I was thinking of was using the supply chains assets. So in particular, relating to our giant coal mine over here. Now, if we go into production, I mean, we're struggling on farms, I will admit. That is something that we do need to address. But if I was going to finish off Tinney, do all of these fixes and do farms in one episode, we wouldn't have a downtown for another couple of episodes. So we're going to ignore farms for the moment, and it's something that we will come back to. We can see with our coal here, we've got a huge surplus. So we've got coal that we can turn into other products and make good. So within supply chains, now these aren't offices, but it does lead on to an office in a minute. And also you're going to be surprised, I think, because I was surprised when I saw this to see the levels of jobs that actually come with these buildings as well. So we've got the steelworks, firstly, which takes the coal and turns it into steel. Now I'm thinking what I would like to do is add these buildings up on the hillside up here. We are going to have eventually the airport down here, which won't be so far off once we've got the start of our downtown in at least. So there's a reasonably flat piece here that I think that we can work with. I'm just going to plop that in. We'll clear out the trees, of course, as well here because that looks slightly ridiculous. And we'll tidy up the surfaces in just a second as well. But we can bring it directly into this road here, which gives it really easy access to our cargo terminal here as well for nice, easy access to outside connections for export, is the hope of this at least. So let's try and wind a road nicely up here. And I definitely want to get smooth slope on for this. I'm thinking that this road will carry on and potentially go to further development in this district, or definitely onto this area that we will develop up at some point. So yeah, if we take a little look at it very quickly and we go to the workforce, so it brings in a heck of a lot of employees. And as you can see from the ones that are filling up here, most of it is actually educated, well-educated and highly educated, which surprised me. I thought there'd be quite a lot of uneducated positions. So yeah, all of those positions are filled by educated, well-educated and highly educated. So yeah, that's helping us immensely. We can also add the upgrade, which I think, why not? Let's do that. But there's another building we can also add, which is, I think it's the fabrication unit. And I'm pretty sure this takes metals and steels and turns it into machinery. So yeah, I think that is the right one. And we can just hook it up directly into the road there as well. So I would like to do a spot of detailing around this just to make it a bit nicer, and that hasn't worked at all, so we can fix that. But one other thing I want to do as part of this supply chain, just before we do that, is also the office building that comes with the coal supply chain itself, which is the strip mine office. Now this I think would be a great addition, and because of the sort of style of it, I'm thinking kind of an outside city area. You'll see this in a second if you haven't already seen this asset. But I'd also like to bring more offices, I think, to the area of Few Haven and Gaudy Bay, because they actually don't have that many. Because it was the start of the city out here. It was a bit more focused on some of the industry around and commercial and that sort of thing. So there's not that many offices, like I said. I think this will be quite a nice location. We're going to just raise it up a tiny bit so it's not so sunk into the hill there and it's a bit more prominent. We'll sort out the terrain around it in a second as well. But as you can see, it's got this awesome, like, pool area essentially, or huge water feature out the back. So I just think like sitting out here in your big rich office, probably with your great salary, looking out onto the valley up to the mountains up here would be quite nice and secluded. So I think this is a pretty good location for it, and again we'll do a bit of detailing around it to help it sit in a bit better and sort out some of the trees and that kind of thing. But it'll also offer a great amount of office jobs to the surrounding Few Haven area as well. So if we take a look at that, we've got 120. Of course, we're not connected to the road yet, so they won't fill up. But you can see there the open positions, and it is educated, well-educated and highly educated again, of course, because it's an office building. So I think the combination of those three should definitely help our unemployment. But let's just do a tiny bit of detailing to help them sit in a little bit better, and then we'll come back and check some of those stats. Alright, so a little bit of light detailing around our factories here. I cleared out some of the trees on the hillside as well, just to leave a bit of open grass in the run up to them. Give them a little bit more prominence up there, but I think that's looking quite nice. Absolutely love Gargar XM's surfaces here, blending them in with the different soil types, so it just looks a little bit rougher around the edges, less polished, less perfect grass. And then we have our strip mine office over here. Now I haven't done too much around this because this whole area, eventually I have some big plans for this hillside, so at some point after downtown we'll be back here and finishing this off, but we've just kind of given it a bit of a nicer landscaping out the front here, so it's very prominent from this main road as well, and a change in the grass colour there just to signify where they're maintaining the lawn, and using some of the vibrant foliage package which I have finally decided to subscribe to give a bit of colour and brightness around the edge there, which I thought just went well with the pool detailing or the water feature detailing out the back. Now there's two other little things that I do also want to fix. Now one of them is over here in the middle of Buril. This church, my goodness, I've had a lot of issues with this. Obviously it's very much kind of clipped in and we have to use Move It to get rid of some of those connections, and then the connections on the houses which are overlapping the actual churchyard here are complaining. The church itself is actually now full. So do you know what? We're going to remove it. We'll say bye-bye to that church and we're going to put in a different church. So I'm actually going to use Titan's Gothic Revival Church from the workshop. I love this and I think it fits in quite nicely with the style of the churches that we saw around the area from Fewladelphia that we took inspiration from as well. Like, look how prominent that is in the skyline with the factories in the background, all the brick red houses crammed in next to this elevated road as well. I really quite like. I do think we need to adjust it over a little bit because that is a touch close to the road there. So we can just pull it in towards the pavement just a tiny bit, so it doesn't complain too bad. And I don't know, yes, there we go. Those houses are now not complaining as well. And I switched over the static plopper balls after the release of the asset editor and hadn't found those missing assets. So there we go, because I've moved the church so many times I actually couldn't see them in the end. So we've got a bit of tidying up to do here. Let's just remove some of these bushes. I mean, we've got a lot of tidying up to do here. I'd also quite like to add some graves in there as well. But the other thing about this church, of course, is that it's not actually death care. It is leisure and recreation. It does also have some upgrades, but I don't think we're going to add them. I think that makes it a touch too grand for the area. We've also got an elementary school here, which if we take a look at education, we're actually doing pretty good for it. So we've got a tiny amount of elementary capacity in college. University's fine, high school's fine. But that being said, I think this might be quite a nice asset to go at the bottom of our hillside over here, like a bit of a kind of grand house in this area. So I'm actually going to plop it in there, and of course a little bit of elementary doesn't hurt at all. But we do need to replace the death care, so that is what I'd like to do next. And I'm eyeing up this area over here with the small cemetery. I think this just fits into this space really rather well. And we can also go ahead and upgrade it quite a bit as well. So we can copy it across onto this other side of the road, like so. I think we'll add a car park in the middle there. And we can also probably add another upgrade onto the back, I reckon, as well. And so that, of course, also needs a lot of tidying up there, which we will come back to because I do want to get on to finishing off this area here. Now, we've obviously got our smart elementary school in here, which I just think fits quite nicely, like a big smart house at the bottom of the cathedral hillside over here. It's kind of got the brick style as well that suits Buril a little bit. And I think we can make that sit into that space really quite nicely, maybe with a few other single family homes around it too. But for the main bit, we're going to do something to bring alive the vibe that we already have in Buril. But just before we do that, a quick word from today's video sponsor, which is Instant Gaming. If you're really into gaming like me and you want to check out the latest titles but don't want to fork out mega bucks every time you do, or you're just looking for a cozy new game to try out, then why not check out Instant Gaming? Instant Gaming offers massive discounts on a whole host of games, including all of the Cities Skylines DLCs, the entire Sims shebang, Planet Zoo and all of its corresponding DLCs, as well as many, many, many more. If you use the link in the description of this video, it also helps to support the channel, which is of course greatly appreciated, so go ahead and bag yourself a deal. Now I want to give a big shout out to my Patreons. You guys are the backbone of the channel. You give me so many ideas and inspiration, critiques. I absolutely love it and appreciate you all so much. And after the last episode, David Atkinson came back and suggested maybe we add an art gallery into Buril because it kind of fits the hipster vibe, and the yacht money could probably support it as well. Absolutely love that idea. So that is what we're going to start off with and add into this space here. Now I kind of want something that's sort of in keeping with the style of Buril, so a bit of a brick building that was maybe once something else and has been converted into an art gallery. So for this, we are going to use static poppables and kind of imply the idea of an art gallery rather than placing anything directly leisure related in that sense. And there's a few of the education buildings that I would like to use for this. So the main entranceway I think needs to be tall and grand. That's what always comes to my mind when I think of art galleries. So to me, that makes the most sense. And there is one particular education building, which is the Modern Community College Extension Wing, which I think really fits the bill. So it's quite modern, it's tall, so you could imagine large art installations fitting into it. It's got quite a nice entranceway with the stairs up to the shaded porch, and then it's got this kind of red roof to it, which of course we could change if we wanted to as well. But I just think that this is going to fit really nicely in here. And the other awkward thing we have to work with is the horrible terrain at this point too. So using static poppables here is going to help us immensely when it comes to fitting these buildings in sensibly. So that's going to be our main entranceway, but then around it, what I'd actually like to do is use some of the elementary school children's clinic buildings to add extensions onto the side of this. So it's kind of going to be a really odd, interesting shape, which again I think fits with the arty vibes of a building such as this. And now when we place this, we want to be conscious of where the entrance is. So the actual entrance is there, which I kind of want to cover up. So I'm going to place that into the side of the building here. And then we're also going to have a second one around this side, like this. And then we're just going to use Move It to position this all really nicely. So something like that. So it's kind of got wings to the main art gallery. It's not a huge one, obviously. It's nice and small, but I think it's going to look pretty cool. I do then just want to change this colour on the top so that it fits in a little bit better. So maybe something like that, but slightly darker. So it's sort of got that red colour to it. And then we'll also make the roof a touch darker and maybe a little bit more on the pinky side. Yeah, so it sort of matches the elementary school just a little bit better. In fact, I think we go on a touch too dark there. So let's lighten that up. Yeah, like that. I quite like it. But then we can make it even more art gallery-like by adding some murals to the front as well. So I'm thinking we can place them across some of the brick here, so it's all sort of colourful. And if it's a modern art gallery as well, I think this will be quite suitable. So like this, for example, you can see the space shuttle there, you can see the sun in the corner, so it looks pretty cool, I think. And then we've got another space-related one here. Maybe they've got a space exhibit, space art exhibit. Is that a thing? Maybe some of the arty people out there can let me know. So yeah, we could do something like that. And I mean, we could go even further by adding more onto the top of the building. I'm not entirely sure whether that's really needed in this sense. I think we're just going to keep it as those two pillars there. And maybe around the side as well. So yeah, I quite like that. And then we've got lots of lovely space for a nice plaza out here with some planters and that sort of thing. We'll probably add some parking onto this little back street round the back here. And that'll be our art gallery. So down here, if we just take a quick little look at unemployment again, we're down to 13.6%, which is an improvement and actually is not too bad. But I think we could probably add in a couple more signature office buildings, knowing that we're going to get the workers in almost immediately down here too. So we've got the EE Unique Office, which I just think would sit quite nicely in the back here. So we could have some more row housing and housing up against the street and have this office kind of round the back of it to fill out a bit more of this space. And I think this one in particular could work quite nicely. It's a bit more of a modern touch, but it's still got that sort of red colour. Obviously, I know we can change buildings, but it's got the colour of Buril, shall we say, the red brick, or it's not quite brick, it's plaster. But a more modern version of that, which I think will fit into this space nicely, like it's been redeveloped and added at a later date against the backdrop of the old city street here. And the other thing with this as well is it also adds quite nicely to the bulk of Buril up this side. Like we've got those big factories and some larger buildings, mixed use buildings. We've got the church now in there too. Yes, over that side, looking fabulous. So I just think having these office buildings, these larger buildings here, and that art gallery as well really stands out very nicely indeed. And then the rest of this we'll fill with some row housing up the back here, maybe try and squeeze in one more office behind them. But we'll keep the street quite consistent with what we've got on this side, so maybe a little bit of mixed use in there. We've still got quite high commercial demand after all over that side. But then the other thing I would like to do to add to the trendy hipster vibe is have a look at some of the leisure venues bars. Because up here, I mean, we have got some really nice views still. We've got low buildings out front with that crematorium. We've got an incredibly dodgy road connection here that we will fix as well. But we got some pretty awesome views, I think, particularly if we had like a rooftop bar elevated slightly, looking out over Few Haven, Gaudy Bay, Orridon Point in the background, the castle, Fisher's Point as well, of course, down to the marina as well. I think that's going to be a pretty cool spot for it. So this apothecary, whatever it is. I think this would work quite nicely. It's got that rooftop bar, it's got the little seats extra in there as well. So I think having this potentially somewhere over here, so those views are uninterrupted, so around about this point, would be kind of cool. Oh wait, they can't they can't see anything there. I've placed it right in front of the little hillside. Wonderful. So let's move it up. Yeah, they got quite a nice view at that point, so I think that'll work. So we'll add that in there. Of course, it needs a road connection, probably its own parking, etc. as well. But there's also a couple of other buildings. So the steakhouse, this fits the vibe of Buril perfectly. Like, I'm not really too sure about it being on this highway junction here. So I'm wondering if maybe up on this corner would work quite well. Now, annoyingly, it does need the road connection this side. So hopefully, yes, that's going to work there. So I think that'll be pretty cool. We'll have a steakhouse for all the rich people in their mansions to come and eat some delicious steak. And then we also have the arts and drafts bar, which I kind of think if we're going for that arty look, maybe we should have this. It's a bit more of a young vibe, I suppose you could say, but it is a arts and drafts bar, so maybe it's quite trendy and hipster, which would go into this end of Buril pretty nicely. So I'm wondering if maybe we actually add this at the back here and we can squeeze in some parking or the such like around it too. It is quite close to the highway, but because it's such a small building, I don't think it's going to fit along the high street in terms of the vibe of it. So being a little bit further away from the main street, I think will be nice, but still close to the art gallery. So they're going to have lots of places to eat and drink around here. And I also think it might be quite nice up against this road to add in a few more commercial lots like that. So we do have the Gusto Gelato artisan ice creams, which does also have a rooftop bar. So maybe they could look up towards the cathedral here. We do also have the Espresso on the Go building here, which I think might sit quite nicely into this space too. So we've got like ice cream, coffee. You know, this is the place where you might come to get your before or after work treat, shall we say. But I also quite like that these assets have their own car parks in here too. We're going to add one into the apothecary. But I feel like this is quite an in-between place, in between the towns, so having car parking spaces or facility to get here I think is quite important. We do also have the tram line running right past as well, which I think would be quite handy for anyone going to the apothecary and drinking those cocktails late at night to be able to get home. But that's the sort of vibe we want to go for. We want to go for eateries, trendy, hipster type places. So I'm going to try and squeeze in more of that sort of vibe with some mixed use, I think, along here rather than row housing. We'll have a little bit of row housing and probably a bit more row housing up next to the steakhouse as we head out of town here. And then we'll do some nice detailing around our mansion house elementary school and generally finish off this area of Buril. And before we dive in, I want to shout out Jack over on the Discord, who won last month's community challenge with this amazing Walking Dead inspired screenshot. Absolutely love it. If you'd like to get involved with next month's community challenge, head on over to the Discord, which is linked in the description of this video, and you could be in with the chance of winning a game of your choice. Congrats, Jack. Awesome shot. Okay, so Buril is complete. Well, almost. We still have this strip to do, which we will do on a live stream very, very soon. So if we just take a quick look at all the stats firstly. So unreliable mail service, yeah, that's still at -10. This post-sorting facility is doing absolutely nothing. There are 0 vehicles in use, there's no mail sorting, no mail being stored. It's completely useless and completely bugged and is just costing us 164 grand a month without doing anything. So in my mind, mail is definitely still bugged. There's not a lot we could do about that. We are still on max happiness anyway, so I'm kind of pleased with that. We have also got rid of the high crime rate negative, so that's great to see. We do have a negative for traffic, and that is because we currently have a massive traffic jam due to an earlier crash all the way down this road. Well, I think it was due to an earlier crash. There was a crash on this street here, and that's where the traffic is sort of filtering from. So it's something I'm going to keep my eye on. It hasn't been there for the whole episode, so I think it's just one of those things, and something I quite like about the game actually, that traffic just seems to ebb and flow. Sometimes there's a jam and sometimes there's not, so yeah, we'll keep an eye on it, but I'm not too worried about that. Oh, we have another crash over here now. as well. And then if we also have a little look at unemployment, we're actually down to 12.6%. Oh, which has just changed to 13.2. Okay. Well, anyway, we've taken off at least 2 percentage points, if not more than that, so I feel much more comfortable about that. All of our offices and our new industrial buildings are working pretty well indeed, so kind of pleased with that. And then if we take a little look at trams, as you can see, we still have a ridiculous number of people waiting for some of the trams. So actually this one's stuck in an accident at the moment. I'm not sure if it was involved or not, but let's take a little look. Yes, we still have quite a few stops with lots and lots of people, but actually you can see the trams are no longer full. So I think with time, well, that one's just filled up from this one here. But I think with time, that's going to even itself out with those trams kind of filtering around the route. They're all sort of bunched up at this point at the moment. So I think we've definitely helped with our tram depot edition and adding a few more on there. So I'm kind of pleased to see that. And yeah, I think we're pretty well set up for downtown for next time. But anyway, let's just take a little look around here. So we've obviously got our commercial strip up here. Not too much to add to this. We added in an extra building here with a few little car parking spaces. Of course, we've got our tram stops, our absolutely rammed tram stops down this side. I did also add in this low income building here, just to add a little bit of height to this end of Buril to kind of balance out this medium European building we had over this side. I felt like that made sense there. And then of course a bit more row housing up to our steakhouse on the corner. I did also add in this cut through path here to help people get up to the tram stop here, which is working really nicely. And there is a tram coming in now. I'm curious to see how much of that crowd it actually clears out. Yeah, and it looks like there's a fair few people getting on it, so that's good to see. And then we filter out into some low density housing out here, just around the suburb. Not too much to add to this. We've just sorted out some of the surfaces and done some nice trees and fencing and things around them. And then our mansion house, elementary school, sitting in the corner over here. We just added in a tennis court, changed up some of the surfaces to make it a little bit more unique, had some flowers and bright colourful foliage to make it a little more grand as well. But really liking how that's sitting in at this point. I did also add in a road over here to get people across to the other side when we start to develop out that district, because I did realise that we only have 2 routes round at the moment. One is on this highway, which we'll eventually have a junction off over here, and the other is all the way around this side, around the bottom here. So I think we definitely need something through the middle, so I've just put that there as a bit of a reminder for when we come to that. Really like this little section of the street here next to the steakhouse. The terrain was awful, so I added in this concrete cube and some stairs and a few little seats out here on the pavement to make another cafe bar. Again, adding to that sort of eatery, trendy style area. But I actually think the concrete cube and the stairs in the middle works really well to disguise the nasty terrain there. And then we have our arts and drafts bar out the back. We used a few trees and some grass surfaces to cover up the nasties at the back of the art gallery. But yeah, I love this. I love it. I want to shout out a few different assets here. So we got these raised curbs and planters assets by Arctic, if that's how we say it. Now these are amazing. They can join together to form much larger or more intricate, interesting patterns, or you can raise them up to create raised different kind of looking planters like I have done here. Incredible pack. Absolutely love those. And then we also have these amazing sculptures. The Urban Sculpture Pack by Demon Dan. Incredible. This goes so well with our modern art gallery. We've got some teapots there. We've got some circular things going on here. I just thought it was quite nice to have those art installations right outside the gallery. Let people know what it's all about down here, and then the bright colourful flowers really add to the front of that, I think, giving it quite a trendy look. I did also add in this unique building here, just really liked how it looked, kind of historical vibe of it. I think it sits in pretty well. And we have some under rail parking over here, a little bit of overgrowth around. And I had some trouble with the terrain at this point, so we used some cubes to flatten it out. It was where this pillar was coming down underneath the rail track, was sinking into the terrain. I added in some of Dome's car parking on top, but as you can see, they're sort of sunk in, so we have to look in the other direction for that. But these posters here and the graffiti, I'm loving this. We also made this building look quite old around here. Put more posters and graffiti around this side, and then we've got a nice back alley around the back here. Touch of trash decals, some cracks. little bit more graffiti, and then we come on to a little hidden car park down here for the block of condos on the corner at this point too. But all in all, I think this little stretch sits in pretty nicely. Kind of pleased with that. And we also touched up, of course, the church and the graveyard over here. So I added in all of these graves individually. They're a little bit wonky, but I think it looks kind of cool. But I'm so much more happy with how this sits in to the Buril skyline here. It's such a centerpiece. Makes so much sense for the old town as well, I think, to have a proper church like that in here, and is very much like what we saw on the original inspiration on Google Earth as well. So very, very pleased for having that asset there. Wonderful work by Titan. And of course then our small cemetery over this side, which, yeah, we haven't done much to. A little bit of parking, a few little trees around, and I think it sits in pretty good. So yes, that is Buril almost complete at least. And I'm really, really loving how it conjoins onto Fisher's Point, I think, from this side. Seeing all of these houses around the bay here, these little pops in height as we go round. I'm loving it. Absolutely loving it. Very, very pleased with how that has turned out overall. So yeah, there we go. Buril is complete from an episode's point of view. And the city is doing pretty well from a management point of view. So next time, it is time for downtown. And for today, that is going to be it. If you have enjoyed the episode, likes, comments and shares are really greatly appreciated. A huge shout out to all of my wonderful Patreons again. Love you all so much. David, thank you for the art gallery inspiration. Love that idea. But that's all from me for now, so thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you again next time. Bye bye.